getting down to the root of what opened the door for me to be in a relationship and in a marriage that was so contradictory to me, Michelle. Like, it was so unsafe. It was so unhealthy. It was so toxic for me. I had to understand what toxicity existed in me to create space for that toxicity. I needed to understand that because something, regardless of what I thought in my head about myself, something in me gave room to that. Hey, ladies. So today's episode, I really want to talk about self-worth and what to do to get your self-worth back. Okay. Especially when you feel like your self-worth right now is on the low end. Now, I do want to say this, especially when we live in this society where we get our worth oftentimes from our accomplishments. So we get our worth from the things that we have, or we get our worth from who we're with and the circles that we're in, the status, all of that. It's so easy that when checked off the boxes to think that, okay, yeah, I'm worthy. But we have clearly seen in society that there are people that have a life that checks off all of the boxes, and yet next thing you know, that person is going and unaliving themselves. So the idea that you need to have all of these external things, and that means now that you're worthy, it's already proven that that's false. So self-worth comes from a different place. It comes from a deeper place. And so many of us don't have it. So I did not know, I don't think I did. I did not know that I had self-worth issues. I did not know. And the reason I didn't know that I had self-worth issues because I was too busy working at the things that were going to make me feel worthy and going to make me feel value. So when you are in this boss babe mindset, you're typically very actively working at the things that you desire, working at the things that you want. And depending on how efficient you've been and how successful you've been, once you've accomplished those things, it's like, yeah, look at me now. Look at me now. And that ability to be able to say, see, I did it, or thought this about me, and you can't look. But that ability to be able to essentially put yourself on a pedestal in your own way, in your own fashion, and prove to yourself that you were able and you were capable, regardless of how many people said that you were not, or how many people that said you were not important, or how many people that said that you were deserving of the behavior or the treatment that they gave you for whatever reason. When you're able to build a life or create a life that basically is opposing to what those people had to say about you, it's like in that moment, okay, I'm worthy. The problem with you getting your self-worth from there is, what if all of these things that you did to create this idea, what if it all begins to fall apart? What then? And now we really have to talk about where self-worth comes from. And what I have learned is self-worth truly comes from your relationship with God. And when I say your relationship with God, I do not mean from the perspective of, like, right now on social media, there's all these different trends, right? Like, there's the whole modest girls trend, and there's the whole, I go to church on Sundays, or I'm a part of a Bible club. I'm not talking about all of these cookie cutter systematic things that you do to say, I'm a part of this social club and you're not. I'm not talking about that. Do you want to sit with us kind of energy? Because sometimes women, we can have this energy of, you can't sit with us, or get on my level, that type of thing. And we try to create these atmospheres of exclusion, or these atmospheres of, yeah, you're not one of us. And then we get our sense of value or worth by charting out all of these different areas of, like, yep, if you were good enough, you'll be a part of this club. If you're a part of this club, etc. So sometimes our worth comes from the clique that we're in, or the trend that we're a part of. Am I in my soft girl? And I'm a soft girl ambassador. But am I in my soft girl era? Am I in my wealthy girl era? Am I in my glow up era? And it's like, if I'm not a part of all of these different trends, then I'm not worthy. But what if you're a part of none of that? What if you're not involved in none of that? Whether it's you don't want to be or you're not capable. Like, sometimes it can be very click, in the way, or trendy in the way that women begin to develop self-worth or importance. What I'm saying to you, or even boss babe within itself, it can be defined as its own clique. But this is the boss babe sanctuary. And really, the whole point of the sanctuary is to heal women of that boss babe persona and that boss babe attitude, and to really show them how their resilience is really standing in the way oftentimes of the better that God is trying to offer them and invite them into. So I did not know that until I released that to God, until I released my strong, independent, powerful woman to God. And it's when I released that part of me that I realized, like, hold on, wait, I really get my self-worth from being this version of myself. And I basically had, right, a midlife crisis, because releasing something that was my identity, it just felt like, who am I, or who am I going to be if I'm not in this state now? It got to the point where I just had to, like, I was like, listen, I don't know who I'm going to be, but I just know being this way is not going to work for me. But sometimes we have personas and we have identities that we get a lot of recognition for, we get a lot of applause for, we get a lot of support for, and we have a hard time letting them go. So we begin to collect and gather self-worth from how well we do at our personas, how well we do in these identities that people are identifying us with. So if I am a people pleaser, how great of a people pleaser am I? Maybe you're not a people pleaser. Let's take it back a little bit. If I'm a hostess, how amazing of a hostess am I? If I am the friend that can solve all your problems, how amazing of a problem solver am I? If I'm the planner, how amazing of a planner am I? And we have all of these roles, right? Or I'm a mom. How amazing of a mom am I? We go through life with all of these roles, and we get our self-worth at how well we deliver at those roles. So when we in society end up talking about eras, it's its own role. So it's like, I'm this kind of woman, and in this role, this is the kind of way that a woman who is truly in this role, this is the way that she shows up. This is the way that she looks, right? That's why even with, luxury being a whole thing on social media, there's all of these different conversations that are having. A bar is set, a standard is set, and then we as women begin to try to compete. That's really what it is. Or we begin to try to aim or, point our ambition at trying to feel that, or I'm a feminine woman, femininity, right? Or I'm a stay-at-home mom. And we begin to share our lives. For those of us that are on social media, we begin to share our lives, or we begin to try to express ourselves in a way that measures up to that standard. And if we're measuring up to that standard, great. Oh, I made the club. But if I'm not, oh my gosh, I'm not worthy, because maybe you do see yourself, you envision yourself being that kind of a woman, but because you're seeing it through the lens of, this is a club that I need to try to be a part of, the fact that you're not a part of the club right now, you feel low in terms of self-worth. So the reason I say this is because when you are on your transformation journey and when you are on your glow up journey, there are different visions, there are different ideas that God puts inside of you of where it is that you want to be, the kind of life that you want to experience and you want to feel. And you're human, right? He gave us free will. When he put Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, the scripture says that they could eat from any tree that was in the garden, except obviously the tree of knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life. Well, when they were in the garden, the Bible says all the resources that they need, it was present. So not only did they have all the resources that they need, all the food that they need, the Bible says that they also had trees that were just pleasing to the eye, meaning it served no other purpose than the fact that this is beautiful. So just think of it as a beautiful painting. So God created things just for them to enjoy the beauty of. I'm one of those girls. I love mountains. My family's from the Caribbean. I don't know if it's the Caribbean blood coming from Haiti. I love mountains. And when I am like in my zone chilling, sometimes I will literally just pull up different scenes of mountains, like especially Switzerland. Like I'll just look at all these different areas around the world, especially when I'm looking at Greece. I love mountains. Oh my gosh, I look at Colorado. I just love mountains, and I love mountains that have life, right? Not just mountain. I love mountains that have life, that has greenery, or it's overlooking water, a waterfall. It doesn't matter. I just love beautiful mountain landscapes, right? I just love all of it. So this is something, it's art for me. And anytime I see this kind of art, but because I look at this content so much, my social media pages on TikTok, on Instagram is constantly feeding it to me. So especially if you're on TikTok and, I repost something, you'll notice that I repost a lot of scenes, a lot of beautiful scenes in nature, because my content is feeding that to me. I say all that to say that God gave us that just so that we can enjoy the beauty of it. It serves a purpose, and its purpose is its beauty. So a thing that God creates, and literally its purpose is its beauty. It's just beautiful to look at, and it creates a sense of joy and happiness and peace and all of that in us. And God wants us to be flooded, right, in a very great way with these emotions and these feelings. So when we're going through life and, we're experiencing, and you're not a part of that, club or whatever it may be, or you're not meeting that standard, and it may not be society standards. It could be standards that are in your life, or standards that were set, by your parents. You did not go and get that degree. You didn't become that doctor, that lawyer, that angel, Caribbean people, and your self-worth can be questioned, right? Or you didn't get married, or you didn't have the baby, or you did and you got the divorce. Just all these things that we go through in life. My point is, we're not perfect. We don't always hit the mark. And if being imperfect is a part of being human, how do you feel worthy in that reality? Maybe your standards are actually higher than the ones that society places on you and the one that your household places on you. But nonetheless, how do you feel worthy even when you're not meeting that? It's where your worth comes from. And your worth does not come from how well you do at fulfilling these different roles or measuring up to these standards. What I have personally learned on my journey and my self-love journey and my healing journey, right? I've been on a bunch of journeys and still on a bunch of journeys. What I have learned is, at the core, fundamentally, self-worth has to do with love, especially for us women who are more on the tougher side. That might sound a little corny to you, but it's the truth. It is the 100% truth. And we know it. A lot of the things that we are doing right now, we think that we're doing it for praise. We think we're doing it for all the applause. We think that we're doing it for accolades, but really it's love. The accolades feels like love. The publishing in the magazine feels like love. The writing of an article about you and this idea that you came up with feels like love. The 200 shares or the 2,000 reposts on social media for something you said or did or wore feels like love. It feels like love, but is it love? So how you get your self-worth back is that you will need to actually open yourself up to being introduced into love. Now, we know the scripture says that, so God so loved the world that he gave us his only begotten son, and whoever shall believe on him will have everlasting life. We understand that there's that portion. But the reality is that we may be facing things or have gone through things in our life where it doesn't feel like God's love was present. It doesn't feel like God's love was there. Can you imagine, let's say you're a little girl and you went through some kind of a sexual abuse and you were sexually abused by somebody, and somebody says to you, yeah, when you were laid there and that person was doing that to you, God's love was there. It's very difficult to reconcile that. It's very difficult to make that make sense. So you actually have to spend time with God, and you have to allow him to speak to you and let you know, especially for you ladies, if that has been your experience or something similar, something, different, whatever your experiences are, you have to allow God to show you and reveal to you that regardless of what has happened, there's some women, for example, that, something that's very traumatizing for them that they're experiencing is infertility. They can't have children, and it's affecting their self-worth. I don't feel like a woman because I'm not able to do this. Or some women, it's not the fact that they couldn't have children, they were infertile. They really had to have a hysterectomy because maybe they had really bad fibroids and things like that, right? I had a girlfriend who loved dearly, and she went through one of these experiences where that's what she cared about more than anything. She cared about being a married woman and having children. And she had really bad, endometriosis, really bad endometriosis. And it got to the point where it untangled in her body, did all types of things. She was avoiding this surgery as much as she could because she wanted to get married and have the baby and things like that, but it just didn't work out. And it became too painful. It was affecting her quality of life. And she finally had the surgery, and it was like so depressing for her to go through that. That experience, I feel like it transformed her in a different way. God bless her. However, when you put so much of your desire to have something or be something, and it's like, if this doesn't happen the way that it's supposed to, then there's something wrong. Just look at me, for example. Marriage was everything for me, everything. It was so critically important. Like, I felt Like my life was going to truly begin when I found my partner, when I found my life partner, because I had all these plans and what I wanted to do. And I knew that I needed a partner, and I knew I needed my best friend. Before I was even married, that's why I called my husband to be my best friend. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so much things I want to do, so much place I want to go, but I need my best friend. So when I got married, there's so much expectations that I have that I'm bringing to the marriage, for me and my best friend, because I've been planning this like, oh my gosh, life finally begins. I'm excited, not knowing that this is a whole human that has real situations and real realities, real battles internally inside of them. And they're just not ready for that journey of life. So I'm over here like, then what are we here for? If we're not, going to take this path and actually go do this, what was the whole point of the joining, together? Well, you know what? I love you and we're married. I also don't believe in divorce, right? So let's do what we got to do to hurry up and speed it up, speed it up, speed it up. Not realizing that what this person at the time was dealing with, it was deep, too deep for me to handle, too deep for me to handle. Did everything I could, thought I could put on a superhero cape and save them, and I could not. So these are the realities sometimes that you go through in life when you have such high expectations, high standards, and high desires, and you fail miserably, right? Now, I can't call it complete failure because it's one of the greatest learning lessons in my life, greatest learning lessons in my life. If I didn't go through that experience, this woman sitting before you wouldn't have been birthed. As much as I despise that experience, it's through that experience that I saw that the level of shell that I was, locked inside of. And that experience was like one big Thor hammer, and it cracked me out of some shell, like whatever I was locked inside of, it cracked me out of it. So the one thing though, that when I came out of that situation, I said to myself is I needed to understand what was in me that attracted this. In the beginning, it didn't look that way, but in the end, it ended up being something that was so far from my standards, my desire, my wants, all that. And I took a responsibility and I understood that if this was in my life, it was because of me. And I needed to understand what was inside of me that would welcome this. And I said to myself, whatever that is, I need it out of me now. Because I felt, like contaminated in a sense. Like I felt unsafe to have what it is that I desire, because my thought process is that whatever it is that I truly desire in a relationship, if I go out there and date again, then I'm liable to attracting this again if I don't understand where I went wrong, like what actually happened. I'm very big on reverse engineering. So I needed to reverse engineer this thing, and I need to get down to the root of what attracted this. Getting down to the root of what opened the door for me to be in a relationship and in a marriage that was so contradictory to me, Michelle. Like it was so unsafe. It was so unhealthy. It was so toxic for me. I had to understand what toxicity existed in me to create space for that toxicity. I needed to understand that. Because something, regardless of what I thought in my head about myself, something in me gave room to that. And that process of digging and digging and digging and digging, y'all, I dug. Man, I dug so bad, man. I was at the crust of the earth, okay? I dug into myself. Oh my gosh. This is where the Holy Spirit truly became my best friend, because I will hit some things inside of myself as I dug, and I would realize that, oh my gosh, that was there. And it would be so painful to see an element of myself that I was not ready for, especially when you're in that state of mind. Remember, when you're in that strong, powerful woman, when you're digging that deep, you begin to truly see your weaknesses. The ego is dying. And as I was killing my ego, as my ego started to die more and more and more, and I was helping facilitate the death of my ego, I began to see, oh my gosh, that was there. I felt unloved. I felt unworthy. I felt like I wasn't enough. I felt like I had to basically help build the type of person that I desired for myself, because I didn't feel worthy of someone that already had these things in place. Like I really started to look at myself under the magnifying glass. And under it all, I realized all the things that I had accepted in my life that I had such a problem with was because of my own lack of self-worth, my own lack of boundaries. Yes, there was a lot of misunderstandings on my end, but nonetheless, it was too far from what I desired, too far. And with that being said, that's when I began to go through the process through God to build up my self-worth, to build it back up. So now my self-worth had to be placed in something that was unshakable, unmovable, unchangeable. What could that be? What could that be that your self-worth is founded on that will provide that level of security? And that's when I truly got to know the love of God. And that's when I really got to know on a fundamental level, the love God has for me as his child, the love he has for me. And that's so important, especially as a woman of color, when you live in a society that tries to convince you that the color of your skin already makes you unqualified. It already makes you not enough. I'll be honest with you, even though that's not something I bought into. I'm also the author of the Black Child's Guide to Surviving America. I'll put the book here for you guys. As the author of this book, this was part of the reason I wrote this book, because I'm like, oh my gosh, people really can destroy the self-worth of, Black children with these ideologies about race and things like that. So I wasn't so much caught up in all the things that were happening around Black people. I was more so caught up in how this belief system about Black people, that, people that are labeled as Black, the impact is going to have on the children, not just from their parents and their family and their quote unquote community that says that I'm doing this because I love you, but also those on the outside. There was so much conversation happening around people of color, oh, they're always going to do this to us. They're always going to see us this way. And you shouldn't be around white people because of this. And you shouldn't be around Black people because of this. And it was all this back and forth, but all I saw was like an echo chamber of like all of this back and forth. It's like, no, we're this way. No, they're that way. They need help. They need this. Like it's just a lot. And I thought of it kind of like divorced children, especially politically. The competition really is all about power. And I saw Black people being used as a pawn. And in the process of seeing Black people being used as a pawn, I recognized like, okay, there's all this political warfare going on. And it's like two divorced parents, right? Red against blue, two divorced parents. And in the process of all this arguing going on, oh no, that child, they're dumb because of you. And oh, they're fat because of you. And they're ugly. And there was all this stuff going on that they're saying at each other. And then imagine you being a child and be like, hold on, wait, I'm fat. I'm ugly. I'm this. Wait, what? I'm dumb. And you're a child, and they're just trying to prove, especially when it comes to political wars, the left is trying to prove, look how horrible Black people are, is because of the red. No, look how horrible they are because of the blue. And then it's like, you're the Black person in the middle, like, wait, Black people are horrible. You know what I mean? So there's this constant death and wickedness and evil that's being spoken against Black people, especially here in America. So with all of those experiences and kind of like unbreaking all of that stuff and unwinding all stuff, even that in my process of self-worth with God, I had to acknowledge the ecosystem that was happening around me and how the word curses that were being spoken. So God had to really take me to just such a deep depth in my soul, in my heart, my mind, and my spirit to really get a true identity for myself, a true revelation of myself that existed far outside of the bounds of society and politics and, just standards and even the standards my own mother and father placed on me. God took me so far beyond that. And I feel like he took me into the heavens, like he took me into him. He brought me back into him and birthed me back out, right? What, as I'm saying that, I'm like, hey, born again. Michelle, you sound like you're describing being born again. But yeah, I was born again. But the funny part about it is I was a believer even when I was married. But through this process of developing self-worth, in order to develop true self-worth, you have to know who self is and why self is so worthy. And there is everything that you could ever name is failable. Everything that you ever name can collapse. You can say, well, I'm worthy because I'm a great mother. My children love me. Well, your children could turn around tomorrow and say you're the worst parent that ever existed. Everything that ever is that you could ever name, it is not stable. It's not secure to build your identity and your sense of security on. The only thing that I was able to see that was a strong, solid, unbreakable foundation was the love of God. And when I received his love, I was able to now feel worthy. And this was the beautiful thing about it. It's all about receiving. I didn't learn, when people talk about, going on your femininity journey and, learning how to receive. If you want to learn how to receive, practice receiving God's love. That's where you really that's where you're really going to convince me that you know how to receive. Because a lot of women be like, oh, I know how to receive because I'll let a man pay my bills. I know how to receive because I let him open the door for me. I know how to receive because I let him lead me. First of all, some of you guys, y'all just don't want to work. You know what I mean? Like, you guys don't want to work. You guys already don't want to do that stuff anyway. So it's like, it's so easy. Oh, no, I receive. No, honey, you're retiring. You're like, oh, listen, take over. I'm retired. That's different. I'm talking about receiving the true love of God, letting him, like, just getting so vulnerable and really allowing him to see. And he already sees it, but bringing it willingly to him, all the parts of you where you felt shame, where you felt embarrassment, where you felt like he didn't see you. You weren't important to him. You weren't loved. Like, where were you, God, when this what happened? Where were you? I brought all of that to him. And by bringing that all to him and reconciling these things, even all the way, even I'm telling you, even God took me through the reconciliation of even race, like race politics and race conversations and, just all of this. He reconciled it. My generational curses, things that happen in my family, dysfunction, he reconciled these things with me. And it's through that reconciliation that I realized, like, oh, you love me, right? You love me. And every single day I am growing in that love. And it's so funny, like, before, when I did not know God loved me, that's why it made it so easy to do things on survival strength. It made it so easy, to be in that strong, independent woman mode, because nobody got me. Nobody really had me. The funny thing is, I believed in God. I believed that he existed, but I didn't believe that he cared about me. It's one thing to know that God is present and, like, okay, I need to follow the rules to make sure that I can get through. But I didn't know that he cared about me. And I think that's the best way to say it. I thought, I just need to be a part of the club of God, right? The club of God. But he wanted me to know I was his child. And even though I considered myself his child, I called myself the king's daughter, like, for years and years and years, over a decade. My signature on my phone was the king's daughter. Anybody text me, the king's daughter, the king's daughter, the king's daughter. So I had this conceptually. I wanted that. But what did it mean to actually live as the king's daughter? What did it actually mean to be loved by the king? And being loved by the king was a very, I don't want to say it was a traumatizing experience, but it was like, oh my gosh, it was a redefining moment in my life. It's almost like, like I was being sucked into this force field, and it was scary in its own way. And it was peeling away things and exposing things that I was not even aware was there. So then now the stability comes, the security comes, the self-worth comes, and now seeing myself how he sees me. And then now all of these different voices, all of these different, realities, all of these different memories, all these different suggestions and implications of who I may be wiped away. And the funny thing is, when I was in my strong, independent woman mindset, I was so sure that that's who I was. I was so for certain that's who I was. You couldn't tell me anything. I was so confident in that mindset. And now I realize that, oh my gosh, girl, you were so far from the truth. So far from the truth. Close, but still extremely far. And it's not until I surrendered that I understood the reason I was able to surrender now is because I knew I was loved. So there will be certain things, for example, that are happening in my life, and it looks like God is not going to come through. And I have to snap myself out of it. I was like, no, that's not the character of God. He would never do me like that. But before, in the old mindset, I wasn't sure that God loved me. I still had this part of me that thought that if I asked him for an apple, he'll give me a snake. So because I thought if I asked him for an apple, he'll give me a snake, that means I felt like, God was liable to pull the wool over my eyes, give me the okie doke, right? To sabotage me. So because I felt like that was a part of his character, right? That God was like a little mischievous in his handling of me, I couldn't fully trust him. But who really is mischievous? Is it God? No, it's the enemy. So because I had so many experiences, encounters with demonic entities and forces working through people that had impacted my life, it had now allowed me to collect this identity of God for that I processed him and interpreted him as beings, or projected onto him this idea that he is mischievous. He cannot be trusted. And when he's not doing that, he's simply not caring. He's abandoning, he's neglectful. At the very minimum, if he's not intentionally or deliberately doing something to me, he sure is not caring enough. So you know what? Let me take matters into my own hand. It's through the love of God and actually spending time with him that I began to learn. Listen, even down to the way I curl my hair. Sometimes I'm curling my hair and I'm like, Lord, can you please help me, Holy Spirit? Give me wisdom on what I need to do to get, you know what I'm trying to get, the idea I'm trying to get in my head. Help me, Lord. Lord, I'm trying to do my lips, so I'm trying to do my eyes, right? Even down to just me being a woman and just being me. So now I'm not perfect, right? Obviously, I do, me personally, I despise when people say that, I'm not perfect. Of course not, duh, right? So, but I must say here, I'm not perfect, because it's important to understand that I'm nowhere near the standard that I have for myself, not society, but I have for myself. I'm still growing, I'm still developing, I still have this vision in my mind's eye that I see to create, but my self-worth isn't in that. My self-worth simply is not. So I want to encourage you that if you're struggling with your self-worth, that you go down the path of restoring love within yourself. Love for yourself, love between you and God, the love you have for God, the love he has for you. Go down a journey, a path of love and healing. When you begin to go down this path, you will truly begin to see the beauty of who he created you to be. You begin to rest in him without doing anything. Without doing anything, you'll begin to rest in him. And it's through that rest in God and just like really just hanging out and having a good time with him where you begin to see, wow, this is amazing. This is fun. You actually love me without me having to go save the world, without me having to be Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, right? Like without me having to be some figure where I am deserving of your love. And wait till you find out that there's nothing you can do to make him love you more. When it finally clicks that there's nothing you can do to make him love you more, then you can finally actually enjoy his grace. And I don't mean enjoy his grace in like this, taking advantage or abusing his grace kind of way. No, I'm talking about accepting where you're at and knowing that you are walking towards better with him. You are being divinely empowered to go to the next thing and do the next thing. And you're even being empowered to just rest and chill and relax. Like you can just enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey, because there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do to make God love you more than he already does. And he loves you so much, right? That he will send his only begotten son to die for you. He's already died for you. You have nothing to prove to God. There's no proving, there's no amount of proving you can do to God to prove to him that you are somebody that's worthy of him dying for. He already did it. He already did it. You can't win a slot. And can I be one of the in the numbers of the people that is worthy of you dying for them? There is no slot to win. He already did it. And he was gonna do it regardless. Regardless, he was gonna do it, whether you accept it or not, regardless. So it's like you might as well just receive it and enjoy it. And then now just allow him to love on you and grow, and existing in God's love and allowing him to love on you and letting your life permeate love and letting love be a part of your interaction, letting love be in the things that you do, letting love be in your work. Now love begins to flow from you. Love begins to become your interaction with people. Love begins to be the way you do the things you do. Love begins to be from the clothes you wear to the jobs you do to the career you have. Just everything, just love just flows from you. And there is a scent, there is a fragrance, there is a picture, there is something, there is a feeling, and there is a flow, and there's even an aesthetic that is unique to you. Unique to you. It doesn't look like others. Others may have similarities, but it's unique to you when love is flowing from you. There is a routine, there is a nature in which love flows through you. So much of what we're doing to have self-worth is performative. It's performative. So if you are in an area right now where you're struggling with your self-worth, most time, first of all, if you're even able to admit that you have low self-worth, kudos to you. 99% of people can't even admit that they're dealing with it. They're instead clearly doing things that's evident of the fact that they have low self-worth issues, but most people can't. So first of all, you're already ahead of the pack, the fact that you keep even admit it. But if you are now working to increase your self-worth, start with the love. Start with the you having conversations with God about love and how you feel love and how you don't feel love. Like, what is your truth when it comes to you in the relationship of God? I don't even know what love is, etc. When it comes to you in that relationship with love, really dive deep into that. Lord, I know you love me for this reason, but these are some of the instances that happen in my life that don't make me feel love. Like, really take the time to investigate how love you truly feel. You want to get to a point where you are so for certain of God's love for you that when certain instances are happening in your life, you'll be able to say, yeah, that's not God's character. My father would never, would never, would never, because you're so sure. I'll leave you with this. There's like this episode. I don't know what the show is. Maybe you guys have seen it. And they'll put different people from different walks of life. And the whole point, and like they'll blindfold them and they'll say something and they're supposed to guess like who's the imposter in the bunch. And there's one particular one, they were doing one on I think it was like a Muslim religion. And they were trying to see like who was the fake one, like the imposter amongst them. And the people will be there. They'll have like 10 people in a room and they'll ask them different questions. And then through the way they answer those questions, the people are supposed to get together and they're supposed to decide who's the imposter. And then one of the guys inside of the space, they're all talking about like their sexuality, virginity, because in that particular religion, there's standards. Most religions have a standard, but it was about that religion. And I'll never forget, there's this clip of this guy, you probably find out TikTok, Instagram, whatever. They asked the guy, how old was he? And this guy was talking, he was like 30 something years old. And he says he's 30 something years old. He's a virgin. And the younger kid was like, oh no. And they were like, what? He said, oh no, I'll never be a virgin for that long. Because he was a virgin as well. He said, my God loves me. And it was so funny because he's a man. But he was basically saying like his God knows that he wants this experience and his God would never put him in a position where he is waiting, because it's like he started counting like that's 8 more years. Heck no, he is not waiting that long until he has his experience with a woman. He's saying his God loves him so much more better than that. And even though obviously that's a different faith, a different religion, etc., it's about the principle of it all. The fact that he was inside of this belief that his God has so much more love for him than that experience, right? And there are experiences that we have in life that may not feel like God loved us. And we need to reconcile those experiences and those moments with him. I say that to say, when you do reconcile those moments and you do reconcile those experiences, then when the enemy is trying to whisper something in your ear and try to make you feel inadequate or incapable or whatever it may be about something, or like it's not going to happen, whatever it is, or like, let's say fear started to try to take over, because now you've gone down this journey of really connecting yourself with God through love, not through doctrine, not through religion, not through I'm the most modest woman that ever lived, I'm the most Christian of Christian women that ever lived, not through all of this performative stuff, right? The stuff that makes us a part of the club. No, you will have such a deep connection with God in terms of love that you will now be able to say, yeah, nah, that's not the character of my father. That's not the nature of my father. So when fear and the enemy tries to make you think like, hey, this is going to happen, or you're going to lose this, you can actually pray against it and pray in a powerful way and pray with so much power and conviction, because you know that a lie is being told to you because of who you are, who your father is. So guys, it looks like that's my time to go. I just want to let you guys know I love you. I appreciate you. I hope this has been a blessing for you, especially when it comes to self-worth. So if there's anything else you want to talk about and go deeper into this, go ahead, leave a comment in the comment section and, we could talk about it. And also I'd love to extend an invitation to you to join our Divinely Empowered Woman community. And the way you can become a part of that community is to first go through the process of the Beauty for Ashes program, because that community is designed for women who are on that journey of releasing that survival strength and embracing divine empowerment. So if that's you, if you're a woman, you've been in that relentless, determined mindset, or, you've really just been trying to do things on your own strength, and you're finally ready to be like, okay, it's time for me to trust in God for real, like trust in someone higher than me, and really, truly walk that path of releasing, all of the mindsets and the things that keep you trapped in that place, then you're going to want to check out the program. The link to all of that is in the description. And once you are a part of it, whether it is through the guide or taking the full program, which I recommend, you'll be able to join us in the Divinely Empowered Woman community. So that being said, guys, if you guys have any interest in any merch, t-shirts, etc., everything you need, okay, it's linked in the description. So till next time, guys, I appreciate you guys. Nothing but love here from me to you. As always, I'm always praying for you. I'm always rooting for you. And I am looking forward to seeing the beautiful transformation that God is doing in your life. Guys, y'all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.